Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video, I want to share with you all my thoughts on the Astrologian job. I do have mine at 60, I have done the 4-man dungeons, I've done the extreme primals, so I want to share my thoughts about the job and of course go over all of the abilities, since a lot of people still aren't 100% sure how the Astrologian operates in actual combat. So let's start by going over the abilities. I'm not going to discuss the abilities that are so much like the other ones. I'll just quickly skim over them. We have an effect that's just like Asuna, removes a detrimental effect. We have something that's just like Shroud of Saints, reduces our enmity and allows us to refresh MP over time. We have Combust 2 and Combust, which are basically dots we can place on the target. Worth mentioning though, they don't have initial damage values, so they bypass accuracy requirements. We have Malefic and Malefic 2. Malefic 2, more damage than Malefic 1, and costs more MP. We have Stella, which is just a 100 potency nuke that applies a heavy effect to the target. Mostly useful in PvP, but if we look back at turn 5 and turn 7, we can think of some PvE situations where these would be good as well, so its use is not totally ruled out of PvE either. Gravity, which is kind of like Flare, almost in a sense, where it hits a target and then hits the AoEs around them. It even has the same damage fall off as Flare does and Holy as well. Difference is it doesn't cost all your MP. So it's just a good AoE nuke, the pretty much only AoE nuke that Astrologians have. We have our basic heal spells, Benefic and Benefic 2, which are just like Cure 1 and Cure 2, but with lower potencies. Benefic 1 also has a proc for Benefic 2, 15% chance to give Benefic 2 an instant cast on its next use. So, not the free Cure proc that you might be used to from White Mage, but a proc nonetheless. And then we have Helios, which is just like Medica, AoE heal, 290 potency, a little bit lower than that of Medica, but all those abilities are standard and don't really need to be explained further. The big things that people want to know about are the card effects and the stances, the Nocturnal and Diurnal Sect. So we're going to be talking about the unique effects of some of the other utilities that the Astrologian has first. We're going to be looking at their cross classes and their traits, and then we'll dive into the cards and the sect abilities, just because those are really the highlight of the job itself. So for traits, again, if you've been playing the game, nothing too crazy. Enhanced Mind 1, 2, and 3 just gives you more mind passively. Magic and Mend 1 and 2 increases the base action, damage, and HP restoration by 10% and then up to 30%. And then you have a bunch of enhanced abilities, reduces the penalty of light speed, gives you a combat res. That's another thing. We have Ascend, which is our resurrection / raise ability, just like the other ones. Enhanced Essential Dignity lowers its cooldown to 40 seconds. Enhanced Benefic, this is what actually gives you that Benefic to Benefic 2 proc that I mentioned earlier. Enhanced Disable increases its effectiveness to 10%. And Enhanced Luminous Ether, which increases the amount of MP we get back from the spell. Don't need to talk about these much more than I already have. For cross classes, we have Conjurer and Thaumaturge. Currently, I'm only using Swift Cast from Thaumaturge, but there are fights such as Ravana Extreme where Sure Cast can come in handy a lot. Also, we have Conjurer, which I'm considering Cleric Stance, Protect, and Stone Skin all to be mandatory. Arrow is what I'm taking right now because I don't need Sure Cast for like 4-man dungeons and stuff like that. And that's it for those things, so let's move on to some of the other job abilities that the Astrologian has. Let's look through the list right here and see ones we haven't mentioned already. Light Speed reduces cast time for spells by 2.5 seconds while reducing their magic potency by 25%. Basically, this just allows you to front load your spells as opposed to waiting till the end of the cast time to get them off. It also has the great benefit of allowing you to cast while moving. So you can see right here, what my cast times look like normally. We got Benefic 2, we got Helios, got some abilities. We got Stone Skin, which has a 3-second. Well, it doesn't have a 3-second when I decide to use Swift Cast with it. That's old habits die hard with Swift Cast Stone Skin. So there you go, casting Stone Skin. When I hit Light Speed, now I can just heal on the go. They're weaker heals, but it's nice to have this complete mobility as the job. I can spam single target cures, AoE cures, even abilities that have longer than 2.5 second cast times. Look, I'm still even doing Stone Skins on the go, even though I have the cast time. I'm assuming that's because my latency is above 0.5 right now. But it's definitely nice to have for high mobility fights or for panic healing when you need to get those heals front loaded as opposed to waiting for them to hit the end of the cast time. So, with that out of the way, let's go back to the job window. My phone is vibrating awkwardly in the middle of a recording, and it's a number I don't recognize, so let's ignore that. Essential Dignity. This is a really good ability. So, this is just an instant cast heal with a base potency of 400 on a 40-second cooldown. Costs no MP, instant cast, great for healing targets up in a panic. It's even better as a panic button because its potency is increased the lower the target's HP is. Now, I don't remember what the thread was, but somebody on Reddit did testing that shows that when a target hits a certain HP threshold, the potency goes up to about 1,000. So the lower the HP is, they can get as close to a 1,000 potency cure out of Essential Dignity. It makes it a much better panic button than it is like, oh, they're at like 80% HP, let me hit them with Essential Dignity. It's not very well used like that. It also means that if somebody in your party gets hit by a mechanic and they're sitting on low HP, you can practically heal them up to full with just this one Essential Dignity. So it's definitely got its uses. Cool ability with only a 40-second cooldown. Definitely make a lot of use of this. It also helps save MP because you're not using MP to cure people. What else do we have here? Stella we mentioned, Draw we mentioned, the Sect we'll talk about, Diurnal and Nocturnal, which means we'll be saving Aspected Benefic. Don't worry, we'll come back to these. Disable reduces the potency of the target's next action by 10%. Now, this is basically meant to be used right before big AoEs or right before a big tank hitting ability to reduce its effectiveness. Only sits on a 1-minute cooldown, but it has to be timed carefully. You don't want to accidentally waste this on the wrong attack, on an auto attack or something along those lines. It requires very careful timing, but 10% less damage. I'm sure nobody's going to complain about that when it's timed well. Just got to really know the fights to make sure you know when to use Disable. Sinistry. Now, this is one of my favorite abilities. I was talking about this before the expansion even came out. This allows you to put a mark on a target, and any single target heals you do to somebody else, 50% of those heals will go to the marked target. Let me give you a situation right here. We have turn 13. We have the Akmorns in the final phase where both tanks are taking an extremely high amount of damage. I put Sinistry on tank A, but then I start single target healing tank B. I throw a single target heal on tank B that heals for 3,000. Half of that will also be given to tank A. So tank B receives a 3,000 point heal. Tank A also gets a 1,500 point heal on top of that. It allows you to split heal pretty effectively, and it's on a 2-minute cooldown with a 20-second duration. So whether you're healing party members up in a panic or you're healing the other tank, and while both tanks are taking damage, you're healing one tank, it has a lot of great uses. Those of you who played World of Warcraft will know it as Beacon, Beacon of Light. But it's a really good ability that has a lot of very, very applicable uses, especially in fights like Bismarck Phase 2, where you have both tanks tanking their own ads. You put it on one tank, you heal the other tank. Perfect sense. It's got a lot of great uses for things like that. Gravity we mentioned already, and Time Dilation and Celestial Opposition I'm going to save for when we talk about the cards a little bit more. And Collective Unconsciousness, just like the aspected spells, we're going to talk about when we talk about the stances, the Nocturnal and Diurnal Sect. So, let's go into the card drawing system next. So, at level 30, you will gain the ability Draw. When you press the Draw button, you'll draw one of 6 cards from a Divining deck, each with a different effect. That you can hold that card for up to 15 seconds before it automatically wears off, or if you spend it beforehand. So, you can place that effect on any party member, and they will gain a buff. So that includes yourself, and that includes anyone in your party. So it's a very, very, very strong effect, very, very strong cards that you can place on multiple people for multiple effects. Let's educate ourselves on the different effects of the cards. So the Balance increases the target's damage dealt by 10%. The Bowl reduces the target's damage taken by 10%. The Arrow increases the target's attack speed by 10%. To be clear, that's skill speed, spell speed, and auto attack speed, since they've sort of put them all into the attack speed stat nowadays. The Spear, which reduces the target's action recast time by 20%. The Ewer, which reduces MP cost of the target's spells by 20%. And the Spire, which reduces TP cost of target's weapon skills by 20%. Just to be clear about the Spear, since I didn't take the time to explain it, if this is on somebody when they use a cooldown, something like Ether Flow or Reload, or any sort of ability that has some sort of cooldown on it, and it's not on the global cooldown, it will reduce its recast time by 20%. So Ether Flow's got, what, 1 minute by default? This would make it so that if you had the Spear on you and you used Ether Flow, it would be brought down to 48 seconds, since it would take 20% off. That should be clear enough to explain what it does. So how does it work? You just draw the card and use it. You have a few other uses that you can do with it. So like, for example, I just drew the Balance. I'll give myself the Balance. Bam, I do 10% more damage for 15 seconds. I wouldn't realistically use it on me as the Astrologian, but I'm being greedy in this case since I'm the only one in the party. Now, you do get other abilities you can use with the cards, and that includes Royal Road, Spread, and Shuffle. Royal Road is the first one you're going to get at 35. And what this allows you to do is take the card you just drew, put it back into the deck, and give yourself an enhanced effect for the next card that you draw. Now, the effect that is granted is dependent on the card that is returned to the deck, not the card that is drawn. For example, I just pulled the Balance. When I Royal Road that, it is going to give me the enhanced Royal Road effect. Now, no matter what card I use next, it is going to benefit from what Royal Road tells me it will. So, I return the Balance. If I return either the Bowl or the Balance to the deck, my next card will have 150% of its potency. So, you know, if it's like 10%, it would be 15%. Or if it was 20% at its base, it would be 30%. You know, an extra 50% potency. Now, if I had returned the Arrow or the Spear to the deck, it would cut its potency in half, but extend the effect to make it an AoE. And Ur Aspire doubles the duration of the next effect that I place on someone. So, because I had Enhanced Royal Road, I draw this next card. You'll notice that this effect lasts infinitely until I actually use a card on it. And I actually drew the Ur, which will reduce the MP cost of my spells now by 30% because of the extra 5%. So what, 795 is my MP cost for Benefic 2. I'll cast an Enhanced Ur, which should be 30% reduced MP now. Now it's only 557 for my MP costs. Very, very effective, but has to be used very, very carefully. Not everybody likes having all these effects. Not everybody benefits from in the same scaling for each effect. So it's about knowing, well, I don't need this card right now. Let me try Royal Roading it and see if the next card I draw is going to be enhanced. There's a lot of RNG in the system, and even when you try to mitigate the RNG, sometimes the game just doesn't agree with you. So, the other two abilities you have are Spread and Shuffle. These are your abilities that you're trying to use to help mitigate the RNG. Shuffle, pretty self-explanatory. You put the card back in the deck, and then you draw another card. So, oh, I don't like the Arrow. I don't want that card right now. Let me shuffle it back into the deck, try draw something else. That happens more often than I wish it did. So because you're putting the same card back in the deck and then shuffling for another one, it's understandable that you can draw the same card again because you put the card back into the deck, shuffled it, and tried to draw again. That could happen. Doesn't make it any less annoying when what you just saw happens. And honestly, this recording has had so many takes, that has happened almost every single recording. So it happens a little bit too often for my taste. It's got a 1 in 6 chance of happening whenever you shuffle. Just keep that in mind. And the Spread ability allows you to save a card indefinitely until you decide you want to use it. This is basically used whenever you draw something like the Balance for the increased damage, or you know there's going to be a lot of raid-wide damage, so you want to save the Bowl and try to match it up with an AoE effect. Things like that. Now, oddly enough, it can only be used in combat, which is weird for one reason. It doesn't go away when you leave combat. I've spreaded a card on the last boss of a dungeon, and then I've left the dungeon, queued into another dungeon, and I'll still have the spreaded card. So realistically, if you wanted to like go into a raid, you know, hit a training dummy until I got the card that I wanted, store it away, and then go into the raid, you'd be able to do that theoretically, at least with the way that the Astrologian is currently working. I'll show you that one a little bit later on. But those are the tools that you have to try and mitigate the RNG of the card system. Like now I have the AoE effect, so I'm going to shuffle the Spear because I don't want it as soon as the shuffle effect comes off. And let's see what I get. I got the Spire. Don't really want that either, but I'll use it in an AoE around me. And there are even more ways to enhance these cards' effects, but I do want to talk about the stances first, since both of these abilities that I'm going to talk about that you learn at 56 and 60 affect both your stances and your cards in terms of their effectiveness. So, at level 30 and at level 50, you'll unlock two stances, Diurnal Sect at 30 and Nocturnal Sect at 50. So, each of these stances has a different effect that changes certain spells that you have on your bar. So, for example, when I'm in Nocturnal Sect, I get a passive buff to my healing magic potency of 5%. But it also makes some of my spells grant nullifying barriers, which means that it gives them like an Eloquium effect or a Sacred Soil effect in some cases. Whereas Diurnal Sect will increase my attack speed, again, that does include spell speed, by 5%, while adding a regen effect to those spells. So it basically just changes a few spells' effectiveness to try and make you like a slightly weaker White Mage versus a slightly weaker Scholar. Pretty much it just allows you to switch between a White Mage stance and a Scholar stance. So, when I am in Diurnal Sect, we have 3 spells that are going to be affected by it. We have Aspected Benefic, Aspected Helios, and Collective Unconscious. Or is that really? I thought it was Collective Unconsciousness. Alright, it's Collective Unconscious, whatever. Aspected Benefic has a base potency of 190. If I'm in Nocturnal Sect, it has a potency of 250. While I'm in Diurnal Sect, it'll place a regen on a target that ticks for 100 potency, each tick for 18 seconds. So, as you can see, I'm just ticking for 700 heals every 3 seconds with that 100 potency. And if I'm in Nocturnal Sect, Aspected Benefic will give me a shield, similar to that of Eloquium. Now, I know what you're thinking. Do crit shields in Nocturnal Stance give you double the effectiveness like they do on Eloquium? The answer is no. That 2657 shield that I just put on myself, that is all it's worth. It is not a 5200 point shield because I crit. That is one of the major weaknesses of the Nocturnal Stance. And honestly, one of the most disappointing things about the stance as a whole. The fact that you're giving up the regen for a much weaker shield. Like a really, really weak shield. Same thing with Aspected Helios. AoE, it can either be a Sucker-like ability when in Nocturnal Stance, as you can see right here. Only a 956 point shield. Or if I switch over to Diurnal, it's an AoE regen akin to that of Medica 2. Pretty much the same deal here, both weaker than their initial forms. And it's also worth mentioning, you can't stack Nocturnal Sect on top of Eloquium. So Eloquium will basically override it most of the time as long as the shield value is higher. Which is why so many people have been defaulting to Diurnal Sect. Nocturnal Sect is okay in dungeons, like between pulls. Oh, I gave a Stone Skin to the tank and a Nocturnal Sect shield. Now I'm going to switch to Diurnal Sect before the boss. Other than that, I'm really digging Diurnal Sect over Nocturnal Sect for in-combat effectiveness. Just having the Medica 2 and the regen on the tank can make it so that you can pull out a lot more damage. You can DPS a lot more consistently during 4-man dungeons when you have the double regens on the tank. And it's just more healing. I just like it better. I wish that the healing potency of Nocturnal was on Diurnal Sect, but I have a feeling Nocturnal Sect is going to need some love before people really decide, even if you don't have a Scholar, that you really want to bring Nocturnal Sect. So, anyway, the final two abilities that interact with all of these abilities, with the card buffs, with the buffs from the aspected spells, is actually Time Dilation and Celestial Opposition. I almost forgot to mention Collective Unconscious again. So, Collective Unconscious is the actual final ability that messes with Diurnal Sect and Nocturnal Sect. So, it puts a shield around you, like this. You've seen this in the main story at some point, I'm assuming. And you can't move, and you can't act while the shield is going on. Otherwise, if you take even just one step or try to use an ability, it ends the shield. So it basically turns you into, just turns you into a defensive turret, basically, with like a force field around yourself. And depending on whether you're in Diurnal Sect or Nocturnal Sect, the shield has a different effect. In Diurnal Sect, it's just a regen. People will regenerate HP over time while standing in the shield. And while you're in Nocturnal Sect, it acts as a mini Sacred Soil. It's 10% damage reduction if you're standing inside of it. It is worth mentioning, though, that if you are stunned, or as long as your character isn't moved, the shield will persist. So even if you're stunned, if you're pulled up into the air, like through Ravana's Bloody Fuller, your effect won't end. It's worth mentioning that because it can make it useful for certain spaces, even though it's still GIMP compared to like a Size or Sacred Soil, in a sense that you have to stand still while using it. Okay, so now that I remembered to do Collective Unconscious, the final two abilities, Time Dilation and Celestial Opposition. Time Dilation extends the duration of target's beneficial effects by 15 seconds. You cannot cast this on yourself, so unfortunately I can't really show you how it works. But basically, any buff that I have given to a player, I can extend it by 15 seconds. That includes Stone Skin, that includes Protect, that includes the regens from Aspected Benefic and Aspected Helios, which makes it so that you can give the tank extremely long duration regens. It would basically, if I used it right now, it'd be 25 seconds and I didn't even see what duration. I think it was at 27 seconds. Would be a 42 second and a friggin' 25 second duration regen. You get the point. It extends the duration of the buffs by 15 seconds. That also includes card draws. So if I give a card to somebody, let's say I give somebody an extended balance card. And so that gives it, oh, that's the wrong ability. So let's just say that somebody has extended. So it's doubling its duration. Let's pick a card out of the bunch. So the balance lasts 15 seconds naturally. Let's say I give it the extended effect of Royal Road and it lasts 30 seconds. Then I can cast Time Dilation on top of that and extend it another 15 seconds to give them 45 seconds of the increased damage of balance. And then, to top it all off, I also have Celestial Opposition. This is an AoE stun. It doesn't do any damage. It's on a 2.5-minute cooldown. But it also extends the duration of all beneficial effects of nearby party members by 5 seconds. That includes yourself. So, if I use it, let's say I use it on, I don't know, I got the spear right here. I'll just use it on myself. It has a 20-second duration. If I use Celestial Opposition, goes up another 5 seconds. This again works on Stone Skin, works on Protect, works on your heal, your heal over time. I think I was calling them dots before instead of hots. Your heal over time effects of Aspected Benefic and Aspected Helios. It works on the card buffs. It works on everything. It even works on Sinistry, which, by the way, Time Dilation doesn't work on Sinistry because it's an effect on both you and the tank. But there's a lot of extension of buffs on this job, which can make them extremely powerful for buffing the hell out of your DPS, for reducing the amount of healing, or reducing the amount of healing you need to do, or reducing the amount of MP you use, or reducing the amount of TP you use. There are so many different applications for these cards. The problem I'm seeing with this job right now, as we wrap up the end of this video, the card's RNG is the reason why your heals are weaker is because your buffs are so strong. So far, there are a lot of situations where those buffs and their RNG don't really line up to do anything useful. Like, you can think of the dream situations, like, oh my god, I got an extended balance card with Time Dilation, Celestial Opposition, that's 50 seconds of increased 10% damage, or something like, oh yeah, I got the AoE balance, and notice how I'm just using balance over and over again. Let's use the arrow. I got the AoE arrow, reduce everybody's attack speed by 5%, you know, faster auto attacks, faster spells, faster, you know, global cooldowns for the melee, everything perfect. And I extended that by 5 seconds. And oh, we got a black mage in the group. Let me make sure that his buff lasts longer so he can get that bonus spell speed. Or maybe I'll give it to the monk so he can burn through his TP even faster. Whatever it is you're doing. It's so many dream situations. I have gone hours without getting a single one of those dream situations because of the RNG. I was trying to help a friend test the balance and its extended duration. It took me 20 minutes to draw the balance card last night. I'm not even kidding. So, while a lot of their tools are great, they definitely have applicable uses, the RNG sort of just mitigates that in a sense. It almost doesn't feel justified. They do less healing for these buffs at times, but at other times you're like, oh my god, I totally get it. So, it's a mix. It's a completely random job, and I don't know how people feel about bringing in a lower healing output job that's entire utility is based almost entirely on RNG. So we'll have to see if Square Enix makes any adjustments to the job. Personally, I did Ravana Extreme. It was fine. Granted, Ravana Extreme is not a very healing-intensive fight. It was so great to give people buffs during certain times to reduce damage or increase damage. I didn't really need to use Ur or Spire because there's not many resource issues on that fight. Those things are going to be very highly valued in Alexander probably, where there is going to be more TP and MP-intensive fights. There's so much potential for this job. It's just gated behind RNG. Honestly, I kind of wish that there was a card. If any of you have played League of Legends and you've played Twisted Fate, where he has an effect where it allows him, he's got 3 cards, a blue card, a gold card, and a red card. And when he uses the pick a card ability, it pops them up over his head and scrolls through them at a, at a gradually slowing pace. And then when you want to pick a specific card, you have to lock it in at that exact moment. If you pick it at the wrong time, you'll lock in the wrong card, and it just won't be what you want it to be. I almost wish we had that so we could forcibly pick the card that we want, even if it has to scroll through 6 cards. It would be so good to have a skill like that that required you to have the attentive skill to pick the right card, but at least you could guarantee you were getting the card you needed at the right time without relying entirely on the RNG. That being said, I've loved the job so far. It's the most fun I've had since when I first started playing Scholar and Warrior. It is a ton of fun. It's just a little frustrating at times. Quickly, let's show off some of the animations. We've got Gravity. We've got Combust 2. That's Gravity right there. We got Combust 2, Combust 1. I'm not going to use Arrow. We have Malefic 2. We have Malefic 1, which you can... Oh, well, good thing I moved. I moved because I assumed he was going to do an AoE. We got Malefic 1, which almost looks like just a lighter version of Ruin. We have Light Speed, which looks like that. We have Luminous Ether, which looks like that. We have Disable. We have Exalted Detriment, which is our Asuna. I can't even cast Sinistry because I don't have a party member around me. Let's see. We have Stella, which I don't even have anywhere useful. There we go. Stella, that's the one with the heavy effect. We have Celestial Opposition. I can't use Time Dilation, can't use Ascend, can't use that. I guess I could show off the heals real quick. We have Benefic. Just, I don't care, keep attacking me. Benefic, Benefic 2. We have Helios, which is the AoE heal. We have Aspected Benefic. We have Aspected Helios. We have Collective Unconscious, which you've already seen. And I think that's pretty much it. I think that was all of the abilities. Oh, and Essential Dignity, which, by the way, great ability. Boom, right there. Looks a lot like Lustrate. So, that is the Astrologian in a nutshell. Like I said, I love the job. The RNG can be really frustrating at times, but it's one of the most active jobs I've ever had the pleasure of playing, and I am honestly really excited to play more of it. I want to play it in Alexander and just to do it. You know, just do it. Okay? Yesterday, he said tomorrow, just do it. Okay? Anyway, that's it for my Astrologian overview. Pretty long video, but hopefully you enjoyed listening to my thoughts on it. I will see you all in the next video, where I hopefully have some more live footage of me doing some commentary on the Astrologian. But anyway, I will see you guys next time, and until then, take care.